It is my privilege to invite Mr. Mohan Rao to deliver a talk on emerging technologies for next generation standards.
Good morning. I think the stage was set for the TSDSI to celebrate the 10 years. First of all, congratulations to the TSDSI, all the dignitaries and all the crew and all the visionaries who set up this TSDSI. One decade of good achievements. Thanks for Mohan to showing off those particular achievements. So, having said that, my previous speakers in the opening session we talked about the IPR, we talked about the technologies required, and then we talked about the India's standardization needs coming from the India, and we talked about the advanced communications, blah blah, many such kind of keywords. I think today I will try to create that platform wherein we can create certain focus areas so that that focus will be maintained and which technologies and which communication technologies that we can think about it and then create that IPR and take that IPR to the standards and then create SEPs from India and how we can all the ecosystem partners like the universities as well as the academicians and industries standard bodies work towards and uh, these particular technologies to get realized and at Samsung what we are doing from these particular technologies and then creating particular POCs. So what do you think about the 5G? Can I ask this question to some of you? Is 5G successful, not successful? It's highly debated point these days. Wherever the forums are there, the people are talking about. Some of the people are talking about the 5G is okay. It came up and then it went off. Is going off, but it is yet to come. Some people are saying that the 5G potential is not fully realized. So while these discussions are happening, 2 weeks back, we could see that 3GPP revealed the 6G icon, right? The it's happening. The 6G, sixth generation of the communications is happening, right? So as we speak, the SA1 System Architecture Group 1 in 3GPP is trying to come up with the certain use cases and definitions for the 6G. And some of you may be nostalgic, and a few years back when we had this 5G in Phoenix, say, there was the workshop that created that definition of the 5G and what kind of use cases realized by the 5G, what kind of spectrums need to be used in the 5G, etc., has been defined. And hopefully, such kind of system architecture and RAN radio access networks and radio access technologies will be defined in March 2025. In that means it's less than a year now. We have a lot of grounds to cover to show that the some of these technologies are realizable for the sixth generations. So let's hold a little bit back before getting into the 6G and emerging technologies in the era. What is that 5G situation at the moment? I asked this question, but I think you choose to become silent because you also don't know about whether the 5G is successful or not, right? So from the things are changed a lot. The way that second generation, third generation, fourth generation was there. When it come to the fifth generation, the consumer requirements, customer requirements is not just the B2B requirements has been evolved. In USA, I could say that US customers can see that 5 times more than the throughputs compared to the 4G because of the large bandwidth available there, and then higher order spectrums are getting used by the Verizon. They also got into the C band. to make the coverages. Whereas in Korea, they're able to use the 5G, but they couldn't see big difference between 4G and 5G because of the kind of applications that they used it in the 4G. That's good enough. 4G is good enough, but 5G is because of the larger bandwidth they faced into the power consumption related issues. Mind you, the most almost 98% of the 5G deployments are happened with the 3GPP release 15. There are release 16 power saving related features are not enabled in the deployment stage at this stage. Then coming to the operator experience, I mean, there are this operator needs what? I mean, why they are going with these generations of the technologies? They need to increase the business. They need to increase their revenues. ARPUs are coming down. So there is a big debate about the why, how to bring this back, these ARPUs into the revenues models and then increase their revenues. There are fundamentally the almost, I would say that 30%, and then we can see that release 16, release 17, release 18, many new features of the 5G is available and many promises that 5G is going to do that. So I think the operators is investing onto this fixed wireless access, private networks, network slicing, edge computing, all these kind of technologies and features are offered by the 5G. They're planning to do it in the due course of the time to increase their revenues. Like I mentioned, the consumer requirements and customer requirements is getting evolved. Beyond that, people would like to have a stable environment, stable speeds. They need to have the connectivity wherever they go. That is why some of the operators they don't have choice, or some of the product companies they don't have choice. They may be using the satellite communications to give that particular coverage, and they want the not just that cell high signal area, even in the cell edges, the quality of service has to be optimal. And I would like to say that 5G is probably the first generation, not only catering the human requirements, but also the connected devices. You can imagine that number of connected devices that has been growing year after year. By 2030, I think almost each human being will be having almost 4.5 connected devices he or she will be carrying. The device needs connectivity, device needs internet, device needs the services, device needs kind of requirement that they have it is unimaginable. Think about the 6DoF camera devices, where the human eye can see about 120 degrees field of view. With the 6DoF, it is 360 degrees. The infinite kind of requirements are coming up. With the traditional KPIs like the throughput, latency, spectral efficiency is not enough to define for the 6G. So I think that what we think in Samsung is that there are 4 key attributes to define the 6G. The first is about the AI native. So we could see that VRAN or VRAN/ORAN kind of deployments, but I would say that it is 0.5% deployment at the moment. But all the greenfield operators like Dish and some of the operators, they are trying to go with the VRAN deployments. But yeah, if in the world, if you can see it, it is less than 1% deployment at the moment. But all the new deployments, even including the traditional operators like Verizon, they are going with VRAN. And some of the operators are very smart, and then they want to reduce the OpEx, operational expenses. So even the old technologies like a 2G, they are trying to deploy for the VRAN for the expansions and remove the existing to cater the existing customers, as well as the reduce a lot of OpExes from their perspective. While this is happening, I think the AI is going to be hosted into these particular networks, while 5G is getting migrated to the 5.5G, or the new generations, all the old generations are getting migrated to the ORAN kind of specifications. But I think when 6G is going to be deployed, by the time it is going to be the cloud native platform itself. The, the network itself will be based out of the AI. And second is ubiquitous coverage. Like I mentioned, uh, it is not just that okay, in the urban areas you will get to have the quality of services. In rural areas, it's not. The COVID created the situations that the connectivity needs are everywhere, everywhere, anywhere, any time, and for anybody. It requires to have the connectivity. It is not just the human, like I mentioned. There will be the connected devices. There are many connected devices requires this connectivity, and real time they need to communicate and then utilize these particular services to be operated. You can't imagine the days in future without having any internet. It's like electricity. Third is, of course, the quantum trends. So there is a big trend is happening towards the quantum computing. The way the embedded processors that we are having at the moment with the typical neural processor units is having single digit TOFs, the trillions of operations. But even with the kind of process technologies that they can go to the very incremental computing powers. With the quantum computers, it will be the range of 5 to 10 times the TOFs whatever exists right now. The computing power will go in that manner. There are many quantum innovations are happening in the computing area, and then quantum inspired algorithms also is coming up to cater to the various needs of this large actionable models and large language models and large vision models. So while this is happening, this poses an important threat to the security. So how do we handle the security mechanisms in the quantum era? So that is another big attribute, a big thing is a trend is happening. And sustainability networks. Each and every energy required for the network, consumed by the network, is very important. The, and sustainability is the reason we have. I mean, we can see the Bangalore weather, the kind of warmness that we have seen in this year, right? The global warming is happening right then. Imagine the networks and RUs. You can imagine about the each of the radio units how much the power that is getting emitted with the kind of spectrums that we are operating it, right? So this could be one of the reasons. So we need to have the sustainable networks also in future. So before getting into each of these particular attributes, little more details into it. The spectrums. 5G millimeter wave has been chosen by the Verizon, and then quickly realized that they can't span across the whole country in USA, and gone back to the C-band. And lot of governments and even they bundled the millimeter wave technologies with the very interesting C-band as well as the sub-6 bands auctions. So each and every operator has the millimeter wave, but 5G millimeter wave has not been rolled out, not much, because of cost reasons, because of coverage reasons, because of power reasons. There are many aspects to that. But even though it gives the higher bandwidth, but it has its own challenges. A lot of research went into the 5G millimeter wave, and we had good use cases. Like I mentioned, if you can go with the fixed wireless access, private networks, that's where that broadbands using millimeter wave will be realizable. I think the A lot of companies are looking into that particular way of deploying the millimeter wave. So while the research is going on in the millimeter wave, the mid bands, upper mid bands, 7 to 22 is going to be very, very important bands also. So that is also been considered as FR3, for 3GPP. So 6G is not only on the lower bands as well as the millimeter wave bands, but also will be in the FR3 with the upper mid bands as well. So, in our view, in Samsung, in each of these four key attributes to define the 6G, we think that fundamental technologies required for each of these areas. AI native, like I mentioned, is not enough to have the providing the cloud or the AI models to run in the network, but also the network also need to be deployed in such a way that in a way the AI works. Your network management systems need to be first will be realized through the AI methods. Your traffic volumes will be measured through the AI methods, AI predictions. Even at the radio level, your beamforming techniques, channel modeling techniques, even you can create the channel models in the labs so that we can using the AI, Gen AI methods to realize the various kinds of techniques. What it leads to us. This particular platform and AI will lead us to give the lot of input to the kind of modulation schemes and coding schemes that we do it in the radio level. In our view, individual entities in the communication systems, like the devices or the network entities, small AI models are getting realized in the 5G. Whereas cooperative methods, like between the two entities, between three entities, how to handle the traffic, how to handle the user volume, that would be the research item for the 5.5G. From the whole system point of view, to make the entire communication systems into the AI based method, that could be the trend towards 6G. Ubiquity coverage. We need to think about each of the RF spectrums, like I mentioned. If it is an upper mid band, how do we handle that? And if it is lower lower bands, how do you handle that? And at the same time, how to give the coverage everywhere? So we think that XMIMO is going to be the norm. We know that massive MIMO is the default technology in the 5G, but XMIMO with a larger, few more transmissions and receptions, and with the kind of technologies that we can think about it, it can provide the higher performance, lower power consumption, and better efficiency and better coverage. So that research is going on with the XMIMO, in the XMIMO technologies. And sustainability networks, like I mentioned, each and every network, the way the communication happens today will change it. It's not going to be like message sequence mechanisms or message exchange mechanisms between entities. With the cloud native kind of deployment, why do we need to have the node B as well as the core network separately? Why can't we combine? So that we can use this combined entity to have the power efficiency. Why can't we use the vRAN or ORAN kind of deployment much more in such a way that they can be extendable for the user traffics and extendable towards the user needs, so that we can reduce the power. So each and every aspects related to our network deployments as well as the 6G, going towards 6G, will be checked and then will be deliberated, will be researched. Quantum safe. I use the word quantum safe because any hackers with the quantum computer is able to crack all the kind of algorithms, be it like your integrity protections or be it ciphering mechanisms, encryption methods, anything easily can be cracked. So the kind of polynomial that we used during the thing, it takes years for the current computing to crack it, but the quantum computers will do it in a few seconds. So can we create the hierarchical mechanism or create the blockchain kind of mechanisms in the communication security arena so that we can utilize these latest trends which are not crackable uh, using even though with the quantum computers. So these are the four major pillars towards the and the various technologies involved to enable for these particular attributes. In Samsung, we are doing a lot of research related to this one, and since time is very short, I'm not going into each of the details about this one. We can talk offline, and then we can discuss about that, and we can have the separate sessions about that. Let me skip these things. Coming to the 3GPP timelines, like I mentioned, SA1 is defining the use cases at the moment. And March 2025 is going to be the RAN workshop related to the 6G definitions and 6G use cases, 6G technologies will be finalized. I think the release 20 is going to be the 3GPP release 20 is going to be the first release which will start discussing about the 6G technologies and 6G definitions. And probably by the IMT timelines, they may come up with the proper definitions in 2027. And in 2027, this will be presented to the IMT. If the IMT approves, probably release 21, 3GPP release 21, the timelines is yet to evolve. They in 3GPP release 21 will have the normal technology, normal definitions, normal procedures related to the 6 generations about each of these technologies. So hopefully by 2030, when we see the 6G based on the 3GPP release 21, like I mentioned, some of our ecosystem guys are not waiting for this release 2030 to happen. So there might be intermediate 5G advanced technologies will be carved out and will be finalized in the 3GPP release 20. And those technologies will see the light much early before the 2030 itself. So why I'm giving this kind of timelines from the 3GPP is that whatever we are researching, whatever we are technologies, we are defining it, whatever we are wanted to do that, be it RIS, XMIMO, or the power consumption related PQC, post-quantum cryptography algorithms, any such kind of technologies we need to finalize very quickly and then get into the 3GPP. So, friends, let me tell you one thing. We are not against this any of these standardization initiatives from the India. So we can work together with the academia and then come up with these initiatives, and we can share our knowledges. And let's try to co-create the India IPRs and then make it very big momentum for the 6G technologies in 3GPP so that entire world will see what it is coming out from the India. Thank you.
It is a wonderful presentation and exposure on 6G. And you have touched upon two important things. One is security, connectivity, coverage. And I wanted to emphasize at this point of time, security is also important. Along with the connectivity, the security is also enforced for our standard, Indian standard. And in 3GPP, straightway we can go to 3GPP and enforce this one like LM, LC, whatever we have done in India.
Sure, sir. I mean, ubiquitous coverage is, of course, is very important for the people to have the connectivity, but at the same time, security is also important. We have seen the cyber security attacks and kind of the hacking. It is happening. It is also phenomenal. So somehow in the 3GPP area, they are still thinking about the cryptography. There is a PQC post-quantum cryptography work item has been started. So if you have any kind of ideas and then technologies, you can participate in that security area. And at the same time, fundamental security, I feel that the blockchain is kind of tied to the certain financial services or banking services. If you can bring the blockchain technology into the communication technology and creating that privacy to the data that we have, that we have it, that will be wonderful to go about it. That at Samsung we are doing the research.
Yeah, another thing is, I am emphasizing on the IoT devices. The connectivity for the IoT devices as well as security is more important. For example, today there was one news item also. If the 5G phone is trackable, and the person also can be tracked and the mobile also can be blocked in 5G. That is because of this authentication.
Well,
So
well
the
said.
IoT devices, I am trying to emphasize on that.
Well said. I mean, IoT devices, like I mentioned, when the connected devices are getting increased, right? Each of the devices are connected. Any connected devices are vulnerable to the security attacks. So we have to take care of the security.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mohan, for the wonderful presentation. My name is Sanjay Kumar, and I'm from a company called Telcolan. There are two fundamental questions, and that question comes from your first question, what you asked. 5G is a success or a failure? Right. Do you think that all the previous generation from 1G, 2G to 3G to 4G, we always had a problem, and we wanted to solve that problem with the new technology? In 5G, what we are seeing around is that we have created a solution, right? And now we are trying to find out the problems which can be solved by that particular solution we have created. Because as of now, we don't have enough ecosystem, enough solution, enough problems which can require the kind of URLLC, MMTC. Of course, we are trying to build solutions around it. That is my first question. Do you agree with that part? The second one is we are talking about 6G, where we have already done 10x of everything what we had in 5G, right? So 0.1 millisecond latencies and 1 terabyte or maybe 1 Tbps kind of data rate. Do we really need those things on the ground as of now, or it is just happening for the sake of technology development, or maybe the countries are trying to build these things and build their monopoly or build their dominance on the technology? These are two questions what I got. Thank you.
Anyway, let me explain. The latencies, throughput, and spectral efficiency is the fundamental factors of the communication technologies so far in 5G. What I mean to say is that going forward to the 6G, they are not enough because the consumer requirements, the sir said that IoT devices are getting evolved. I also said that connected devices are getting much more, and requirement to the consumers, not just the human requirements, but also the kind of machines doesn't have that doesn't have the virtually no limitations, is not enough. These three things are not enough. While 6G will deal with the incremental growth about these three things, but it will also need to handle the security. It will also need to handle the power sustainability. It also need to handle the cyber attacks. All these things need to be covered. And precision is also important. For example, with the video calls that we are having it, certain level of the precision is enough. But if you want to use this for the kind of applications like remote surgery kind of thing, I'm not getting into the details about the remote surgery things. The precisions like 0.001 milliseconds is important. So while dealing with the current parameters which are required for the basic communication technologies, we also need to handle the periphery about it. So that would be the secret sauce to success for the 6G.
Our study groups, especially in SGSS and SGSS, we are doing a couple of things on AI native. and end-to-end security mechanisms involving also IoT to be connected to 6G in future. And split AI, we are working on distributed AI and all that. So if you can tell your teams to connect with us on that, so we need further information or further value addition to those things. Thank you.
Key initiative that we also started, and we can work on that.
May I request Mr. N. Mohan Ram, Director General TSDSI, to present a memento to Mr. Mohan as a token of our appreciation.